What's up, everybody? Welcome to the live stream. Oh, yeah. I wish I had like a 5-point harness I could strap in when it's time to stream. Be really ready to just like I've jacked my chairs and originally reclined a little bit, not that much, and I thought, oh, there we go, straight back, good posture, locked in. Ready to answer your questions. Oh, yeah, that's what we are. We're ready to answer your questions. How y'all doing? We got questions queuing up already. We're gonna actually get into it. Looks like I'm working out in the gym. I don't. Thank you. I'm not. But very good. Very good. Should we? Oh, Skydozer. Skydozer says, shots fired with the shirt. Okay. Not trying to fire any shots. But sometimes I receive shirts in the mail. By the way, if you are going to send me t-shirts, I used to be an extra large. I'm a large now. So I guess I am working out in the gym. No, not really. But that's not the point. Send me larges if you're sending me shirts. If you do send me shirts, I'll probably wear them on a stream. And today we're wearing this shirt. I believe I got it from We Bleed FPV, although We Bleed FPV didn't make the shirt. Let's see if I can find this. Just because if I'm going to wear the shirt on stream, then I should probably, let's see, shop. Is it under merch? Maybe it's under merch. Yeah, here we go. It's under merch. We Bleed FPV Parody Tee. Here we go. I'll put a link in the chat. You can pick it up if you want to. It is parodying the fact that Tiny Whoop is a trademark owned by Jesse Perkins. And a little while back, Jesse Perkins went around to a bunch of people who were using the term Tiny Whoop and told them he had a trademark on it, and basically asked them to stop using his trademark without permission. And there was a little bit of a kerfuffle about that. We're not going to rehash it. But in response to that, someone made this shirt, which is, here's the Tiny Whoop logo. So it is parodying, a key word there because parody is protected speech. And we could, potentially someone could get in trouble for, I don't know, would this be a trademark violation? It's not. Anyway, regardless, that's for the lawyers to hash out, not me. I also was a little bit annoyed at the whole trademark thing. That's, again, not to rehash here. And so when I received this shirt in the mail, I was tickled. I was tickled, shall we say. And if you also are tickled, feel free to pick it up. Thank you, We Bleed FPV, for sending it to me. Anybody in the chat? Comment? Yeah. Skydozer, it's interesting. Like I enjoy the minutiae of trademark and copyright law. I've been interested in copyright law. Well, as a creator, I'm interested in copyright law because it's relevant to my career. But way back in the Napster days, when people started downloading MP3s, kids these days don't know. MP3s were a big deal. Before MP3s, you couldn't stream music. You couldn't transfer music over the internet very effectively, number one, because the internet was extremely slow. A lot of people still had dial-up. Some people had DSL that was like 1 megabit per second, and that was considered fast. And so WAV files are so big, and hard drives were expensive too. It wasn't really feasible to take your whole music library and store it. And MP3s didn't exist. And when MP3s came to exist, it was a big, big deal. Partly because it meant you could store your whole music library on a hard drive or an iPod or something like that. And also because it meant you could share them over the internet, and then the whole Napster thing happened. Napster being an old peer-to-peer, people may not remember Napster. It's been so long. Napster was one of the first, if not the first, big peer-to-peer file sharing programs, and it was used, among other things, for sharing music. And of course, it was like a sea change in the ability to get music for free. It used to be if you wanted music, there was no digital distribution. You didn't go on iTunes and buy it. The only way to get music was to go down to a record store, and like you go to the mall and you would flip through the CDs and you'd find a CD you wanted and you buy the CD. The CD would be $15. It would have one song on it that you actually wanted. And then, depending on when in history this was, you would rip that to your hard drive, to your music library, and you have a digital copy. There was no way to get digital copies of music. There was no way to stream music. It just didn't exist. And Napster came along, and suddenly you could get any song you wanted for free. And of course, the recording industry shit their pants. And, history played out how it played out. Nowadays, we have ample streaming. Like, the idea of owning a music library to me is like, I don't know why I would do that. I just sign up for Spotify and I can get any song I want, YouTube Music, whatever you name it. I get any song I want. But I've been interested in copyright law and trademark law for a long time. I don't claim to be an expert on it, but one of the quirks of trademark law is that if you don't defend your trademark and your trademark becomes diluted, you can lose it. Okay? So the idea that, like with copyright, you own the copyright. If someone takes my copyrighted work and they start, if I start making shirts with Mickey Mouse on them, Mickey Mouse is a copyrighted work. If I start selling those shirts and Disney doesn't come after me, their copyright is not affected in any way. So copyright you just have whether you enforce it or not, and at any time you can just decide to enforce copyright. Whereas trademark, if you go long enough without attempting to enforce your trademark or defend your trademark, eventually it can become diluted, and a third party can say this trademark has been diluted, and they could basically take it away from you. So that is a concept that exists in reality. Whether that, again, I'm not going to open the can of worms and reopen the discussion of exactly what was done and whether, all that stuff. I've talked about that, and we're not going to do it again. But it's interesting. Little history lesson about Napster. Kids these days, do you remember Napster? Oh, you all probably remember Napster because, like me, you're old. Okay, we'll start a poll. We'll see how old you people are. Yeah. Let's get into the questions from the stream, though. Let's do it. We got a question here. I'm a beginner FPV drone pilot for 2 months. Do you have any advice to give me? It would be great if I could progress more quickly because I'm going to the Alps this summer. So advice for a pilot 2 months in. At 2 months in, you probably have your basic piloting down. Obviously, there's always room to get better as a pilot, but you probably, you got you're practicing flying, you're working on improving as a pilot, but fundamentally you can fly the drone. I think the thing I would advise you if you're going to the Alps this summer, number one, whether you're from, I guess, Switzerland or not, wherever you're going, make sure you research the drone laws in the place that you're going, especially if it's not your local country, right? But if you're 2 months in as a noob, then maybe you don't know. If you're a Swiss citizen, you just started flying, you may not be an expert on the drone laws. The thing is, if you're flying in your backyard or like in a little local park somewhere, a lot of times you fly under the radar and you don't get in trouble, but then you go to a national park, you go to the Alps, and then suddenly you get attention, that you wouldn't have gotten, and you can find yourself in trouble. I just saw a video of a dude who was flying his drone in Tokyo and was like, he was like arrested, $5,000 fine, and he's just standing there like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, okay, on the one hand, you're a doofus. Like, if you thought you could, like, fly a drone in the middle of Tokyo downtown and, like, not have that be a problem. But on the other hand, like, I don't know, we probably didn't expect to be like carted off to jail and a $5,000 fine. So I firmly believe, and I always say, know the laws that you're breaking, and then decide if it's appropriate and worthwhile for you to break them. Okay. Definitely research that stuff. And the other thing is, if you have never done long range stuff before, I think you should be highly prepared for the likelihood that you lose your bird. If you like go to the Alps on vacation and you decide you're going to fly, like the thing is, there's a point when you're flying a drone where you fly far enough away or in a location where if you crash, you can't just walk over and pick it up again. And when you cross that line, you're in a different regime. And if you're okay with losing your drone, well, then you send it. But like if I was going to do that kind of thing, I would want to have a drone with return to home set up and tested to increase the odds that I make it home. But return to home is going to help you if like your battery comes unplugged in flight or some stupid stuff. If a prop breaks in flight and falls off or some stupid stuff like that. And with only 2 months, well, you're going this summer. If you're going to the Alps in the summer, isn't it currently the summer? So either you're going right now, in which case, with only 2 months of experience, I think probably you should fly very conservatively and not like try to fly up to the top of any mountains because you'll probably lose your drone. Not 100%, but the odds go up. If you're from the Southern Hemisphere and you're going to be flying in 6 months, maybe you'll have enough experience to really feel a little more confident doing that. The final thing I'll say is, whenever you're flying an RC aircraft or a drone, take baby steps, okay? Don't go from, I can fly around my backyard, to, I'm going to fly 5 kilometers to the top of a mountain. That's too much. That's too big of a bite all at once. Right? Work yourself up to it. You know, increase the risk, increase the problems incrementally. Okay? So that as problems happen, you are 90% comfortable with what you're doing and you've added 10% unfamiliarity. And when you get into trouble, you can fall back on that 90% foundation and save yourself. Whereas if you get to a point where you're 20% comfortable with what you're doing and you're 80% out in the wilds, when stuff goes wrong, you're not going to be able to, you're going to basically lose the drone or something.
Also,
yeah, Blinty.
Did you mention check regulations and don't get in trouble? I
did. Yeah. Check the laws. So like the very first thing I would do is I would look up drone laws in Switzerland, and I would contact, if possible, I would get in touch with a Swiss FPV pilot who can tell you, like, he'll be like, yeah, okay, it's illegal, but if you do this, it's probably fine. You know, the lay of the land.
Yeah.
By the way, I know that the Alps are not just in Switzerland. I just picked Switzerland as an example. Go ahead, Blinty.
Yeah, it's just good to know if you're breaking laws, what they are. You know 100%. What I mean? 100%. Chat is like, who cares? But like, you should know what you might get in trouble for.
100%. I would like to do long range between the mountains. I don't think you should. Okay? I don't think you should. I think that is probably going to end badly, especially if you've never done it before. Okay? There are so many ways that this goes wrong. And probably all it means is you lose your drone. You crash your drone somewhere in the wilderness and you never see it again, which isn't good, depending on how wealthy you are. If it were someplace where there was a fire risk, I would say, well, if you crash your drone and the battery lights on fire and you start a wildfire, that's bad. But probably the Alps are not a massive fire risk. So, probably it's a remote enough area that you're not going to drop it on someone's home or someone's house or someone's vehicle. So those are concerns I would have, but they probably don't exist. I just like you're doing long range between the mountains and then you get caught in a tailwind and you don't realize how far out you are. And then when you try to fly home, you're in a headwind and your battery isn't going to make it back. And now you're 3 kilometers from home and your battery's reading 3.2 volts and you don't know what to do. Right? These are the kind of, or you fly and you make a left turn and you don't realize you've flown behind a mountain peak and now you lose video and you don't know what to do. There are all of the ways that this goes wrong. Or you're like, oh, no, I'm just going to fly from this mountain peak to that one, turn around and come back. And so you fly from this mountain peak to that one and turn around and you're not actually sure which one is the mountain peak you're on because now it's all just a big freaking landscape. These are things that happen as you fly long range. And if they happen, you're taking baby steps and they happen, then you could compensate. But if you've never done this before, just go enjoy your vacation to the Alps and just leave your drone at home. Don't try it. Okay, enough about this. Thank you so much for the question. It's a good question. We're going to move on. Josh Booten asks, is the Mobula 6 outdated in 2025? No, not at all. It's not the latest and greatest. There's the Mobilite. There's the Air 65. There are these. The Mobula 6 is in the 20 to 22-ish gram, I think, tiny whoop class. That's when 20-ish grams was like a good weight. There's a new class of tiny whoops. I should just call them whoops because as we see here, tiny whoop is a registered trademark. So the Mobula 6 is not a tiny whoop TM. It is a whoop class micro drone. I don't know what you want to call it. There's a new class of whoops that come in around 16, 17 grams. And that's sort of the current generation. But the Mobula 6 is still like great. It's just fine. It's fine. Mupshot asks, thank you for being a patron, Mupshot. Yeah, Mupshot asks in the Discord server, which is for patrons. I have an F411 Betaflight all-in-one with walk snail. With a snail? With it walk snail? 452 107. PID loop is getting load error for 36 seconds. Let me arm. What I would do... So that's interesting, but if you're getting the load error, then that means only one thing. So...
Hey, just one piece of context. I saw him post in the Discord about this, and he's downclocked or whatever you do to make your PID loop lower. So he's normally 3.2, 1.6, and he's all the way down to 1.07 and still getting the issue when he plugs in the battery.
That is weird.
So I wonder if it's like a bug. To me, it feels like a bug because that's like... I don't know. So just so if people are following along, normally if you get the load error, you see the word load in your OSD and you can't arm. It means that your PID loop frequency is too high. Depending on your processor, you may not be able to run at 8K. You turn it down to 4K and you should be fine. If you have the Bosch gyro, it'll read 3.2K and you'll turn it down to like 1.6K. But you're saying he's already done that. And that you should only ever need to knock it down one notch from 8K to 4K. I don't think you should really ever have to knock it down from 3.6K, but that's already weird. 3.2K, sorry. 3.2K. And then the fact that it says load for 30 seconds after you power up and then it goes away, that also is very weird. What load means, though, is that the processor is overloaded. So if we look down at the bottom of the screen, we can see the CPU load right here. And if that is too high, then the flight controller goes, it's not safe for me to arm. I can't fly. I'm overloaded. I can't fly safely. It'll refuse to let you arm. You can solve that by disabling features. Like if I go to the motors tab and I disable bidirectional D-shot, the CPU load will go down. Don't do that. You want bidirectional D-shot. It makes your drone fly better. The answer is always to go to configuration and reduce the PID loop frequency. That is the thing that reduces load with the least effect on flight performance. In fact, almost no effect on flight performance, in my humble opinion. The additional piece of information is this happened when he changed from analog to walk snail on the same board. So is this like an MSP bug where like MSP and like we've seen that happen a couple times with OSD or black box, like them like stuff being on the same SPI pin or something. Maybe there's some kind of weirdness. If you disable MSP, does this stop? I would start testing like stuff like that.
I guess he reflashed. He must have reflashed because that if he's on Betaflight 4.5, he would have had to. I guess he could. He might not have reflashed. He could have had both HD and SD built into the build. I might consider reflashing. Just reflash and default the configuration just to be safe. And then don't paste your CLI dump back in, but like one by one, just set up your receiver and set up an ARM channel and see if it has a problem. Or here's another way to go about it. Reflash, paste your CLI dump in, and just see if the problem goes away. And then if not, default the configuration on the flight controller and set it up one by one and see what configuration option is making this happen. But I agree, this is a weird anomaly, and I'm not sure. There shouldn't be anything if you're at a reduced PID loop that overloads your CPU. There shouldn't be anything in the flight controller that can do that, as far as I'm concerned. So I hear Blunty is echoing. Hold on. Blunty?
Hello, it's me. Am I echoing?
No,
hello.
You're not echoing. You're not echoing. Okay. Left Miss, thank you for being a patron, Left Miss, and for being in the Discord. My quad has a 65 hertz vibration that I just can't track down, and I'm kind of running out of things that could cause it. 65 hertz is a very low frequency for resonance. It is absolutely a problem. It is anything from about 100, let's say 120 to 150 hertz or lower is going to create problems for you in flight. I say that now, this is based on a 5-inch drone. If you got a 10-inch or a 13-inch drone, these numbers are probably different because the frequency of the props is different. But for a 5-inch drone, it's just where I live. Prop wash oscillation. So all of the actual movement of the drone is down below, let's say, 20 hertz. And you may think the movement of the drone doesn't have a frequency because a frequency is a waveform and the movement of the drone is not a waveform. And you're right. But if you think about it, if I take one rotation of the drone, if I were to extend that rotation out into time, what frequency would it be at? Okay. And all of that stuff, is down below 20 hertz. It's very, very slow rotations. Even a fast, like 360 degree, even a snap roll at 1200 degrees per second is still relatively low frequency. Then we get up into prop wash oscillation is the next thing that the sort of PID controller deals with. Prop wash oscillation typically happens for a 5-inch drone around, say, 80 hertz. Okay? There's some variance there, but let's rough it in at around 80 hertz. And this is a real problematic frequency because the PID controller really needs to see that 80 hertz movement in order to counteract the prop wash oscillation and make the motors smooth the drone out. And because the turbulent air that causes prop wash oscillation is still happening, but when the quad flies smoothly, the motors will counteract that. Okay, and the reason that's a problem is that 80 hertz is getting up into the range where our low pass filters, we would really like to filter a little lower, but we can't filter out the prop wash oscillation. It's getting close to the motor frequencies, which typically come in around, say, 200 or 250 hertz. All that is to say, 60 hertz, it's a real problem because you cannot, like if you told me that you had a resonance peak at 180 hertz, I would say just get a notch filter, notch it out, and you're fine. Okay? But at 60 hertz, we need that information. Everything from about 120 hertz down, we have to have in order for the drone to fly good. So we can't just notch filter out 60 hertz. We have to figure out what's causing it mechanically and repair the mechanical thing that's causing it. And unfortunately, the only way to do that is trial and error. You just have to look at the drone. You have to look for sources of vibration, sources of resonance, and you have to, like, maybe you change your frame. Maybe your frame just fundamentally has a problem. Maybe you rebuild the damn thing and somehow this time the problem doesn't happen. But it's impossible to really predict what's going to cause it. It's definitely a problem though. Thank you, Doug Cronkite, for the kind words. Doug says, I just joined your Patreon. Flown RC for 52 years. Well, I won't hold that against you. Flew quads a little in the past, but never got into FPV. Now my son's into it, and I've jumped in deep, and I'm loving it, and I'm pissed I didn't do it sooner. That's awesome, man. That's one in the positive column for all the many, many people who are like, this sucks. Why did I get into this? Oh, I wasted all my money. I'm really happy to hear that. How do you even notice a 65 hertz vibration? How do you notice a 65 hertz vibration? Black box is the only way. Black box is looking at the gyro data. Let's do super chats. We've got a couple super chats coming in. Are there 10-inch presets on iNav? Asks Gunnar Schweiterman. No, I don't think there are, Gunnar. Whenever I build a 10-inch on iNav, I load the 7-inch preset. And then sometimes I go in iNav, if you go to the PID tuning and you go to the filters tab, there are recommended cutoff frequencies for different size props, and I adjust that. But a lot of times I'll just run a 10-inch on the 7-inch preset, and it's basically fine. What's up, Josh? 8Fawn says, looking extra good today. Thank you for $2, 8Fawn. Appreciate that. You know what it is? I know what it is. Many people in the chat are saying, did Bardwell lose weight? Why is Bardwell looking so good today? Thank you, first of all. That means a lot. I think what it is, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I tried a slightly different beard grooming method. And I think what you're saying is that it's working for me. Slightly different beard grooming. This is a little subtle, but I changed up the length on the sides versus the bottoms. I started doing the tops with a smaller guard. Like this right here is a 3mm guard. And this right here is like a 5mm guard. And like down here is like a 7. So you get a little bit less of a poof around my cheeks. It gives me a little more of a tapered, thinner face. And then I also started, and this is more, I don't know if you can see this, but I started shaping here just a little to give a little more of a jawline. It's starting to grow back in, actually. I don't know. I think what you're saying is it's working for me, though. So thank you. Do I look flushed? No. One IFPV, if I look a little flushed, it's probably because the magenta backlight is also casting a little bit on this side of my face. I actually am going to fix that. I don't know if you guys know this. Okay, well, since you opened the door. So, like, right now, there is right over there, off camera, a magenta light, which is casting on the back wall. Just to give, oh, sorry, wrong. Just to give a little bit of color. So, like, if I turn that off, you see the difference? It's subtle, but I think the back wall looks better with a little color on it. The problem is that it also shines on my face, I actually have some Philips Hue lights I'm going to mount on the ceiling so that they cast on the wall, but not on my face. Someday I will actually install those. Color1238, thank you for a $5 super chat. Due to recent events, would you recommend HD0 Caddx, Wyvern Link, or Analog? Can you explain the differences between them? Okay, so generally speaking, what video system should you get? And I guess this is referring to the recent DJI issue. Hey, have you guys noticed that DJI, it's not available anymore? You can't, it's out of stock. And in fact, if I go to the DJI website, let's look for DJI O4. Buy now. Out of stock. And it's not just the normal everything is out of stock forever, because if you are in the European Union, it's in stock. Basically, everything is out of stock on the DJI store. All the drone stuff is out of stock. And I'm like, I could buy an Osmo Pocket. I could buy an Osmo Action. that's available. All the drone stuff is out of stock. And if I go DJI.com, oh, interesting. I heard a rumor that if you come from the United States and you go to DJI.com, they took the drone stuff off the front page, and you got presented with a whole bunch of other stuff that wasn't drone stuff. So Madstech, credit where credit's due. Madstech has his finger on the pulse. He actually has contacts in the DJI ecosystem. He has for a long time. He's reporting that DJI
O4 units are now
has stopped sales in the United States till August. Potentially related to some customs issues. No one really knows the detail. No one knows the actual facts. Like the why, the actual whys and hows. But basically, June, July, August, we got another 6 to 8 weeks before we get more DJI stock, and who knows what will happen between now and then. So if you want Madstech's insights into this, you can check out this video on his channel. But the question that's being asked is, what system should I get? And DJI, for the first time in 6 years, is not on the list. This is the first. I think this is really notable. Because, until now, people have said, well, I don't want to get DJI because I'm concerned about my privacy. I'm not comfortable with various political things that DJI is associated with or rumored to be associated with, or I just don't want to do business with a Chinese company, as if that's possible. But people have had various reasons to not go with DJI. It has never been their performance of the system, which is astounding, class leading. But it's never been, I can't get DJI. There have been periods where DJI was in or out of stock for various reasons. Mostly around the 2020, 2021 timeframe. The whole pandemic, global disruption thing. But, all DJI products, F you can't have them. This is a first. So, what should you get? I'm gonna start by saying that Wyvern Link, OpenIPC, that is not a viable FPV system for a normal person who just wants to fly. OpenIPC is for hackers who want to screw around with an open source project, people who want to contribute to the development of an open source project. The ease of use and the performance of the OpenIP system is insufficient to be used by a general hobbyist, even a technically, even me, and I am technically capable enough that if I wanted to, I would just figure out how to do all the things I want to do. I would just get on the Telegram channel, I would get on the Discord servers, and I would ask, and I would figure it out, and I would make it work. That's how I got to where I am today. I wouldn't use OpenIPC as my daily driver. It's I can get better performance with more ease of use from other systems. So unless you specifically want to screw with OpenIPC as an end to itself, Wyvern Link, RunCam, OpenIPC, that's not for you. It's not there yet. It might get there. The people who are working on it hate when I say it's not there yet because they would rather I say it's making a lot of progress. Isn't it exciting how far they've come? Absolutely. Absolutely is exciting how far they've come. Well, what about HD0? HD0, very, very good for racing. Not as good for sort of park flying freestyle. Anytime where range and penetration is a consideration, HD0 falls short. Anytime where latency and compatibility with race timing systems and stuff is a consideration, HD0 wins. So I know there are people who use HD0 and it's just their main video link. They use it for freestyle. They use it for flying around. More power to them. I don't think that's the right general recommendation to make for just a typical person coming in off the street. I think that's the exception. Caddx, solid choice. Solid digital system, like a solid B plus compared to DJI's S tier. Okay. Caddx is good. In a world where I've often said, in a world where DJI didn't exist, I would be much, much more impressed with what Caddx and Walksnail bring to the table. It looks like for the next month or two, we're living in that world. So, how about that? Or just analog. I got to tell you, analog, the video quality is garbage compared to like Caddx or DJI. Or it's not even that great compared to HD0. Even HD0 is better than analog in terms of image quality. But analog is surprisingly solid. And you can get a lot done with analog. And these days, where stuff's getting expensive, stuff's hard to import, it's out of stock, the ability to just go buy an analog video transmitter from whoever the frick has it in stock is kind of exciting in a way that it wasn't before all this tariff trade war BS started and stuff started being out of stock a lot more. So I think for a racer, the choice is HD0 or analog. HD0 being a more expensive, higher performance option. Analog being okay, still pretty good, but not quite as premium. And then for a sort of park flyer, freestyle, bando basher person, Caddx or analog would be the choice. The thing that's frustrating about Caddx is that, like, there's the quality of their hardware is not quite where people would like it to be, I think. And then, like, they have this frustrating habit of developing some new feature or product that nobody really asked for and not fixing the thing that people have been asking for. Then sometimes they fix it. It's kind of like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back situation. And I've also seen stories of people who got really frustrated. Like, I'm on my 3rd Moonlight. They keep breaking and Caddx replaces them under warranty, but I'm just kind of fed up with it and I'm going back to analog, kind of a sentiment. So anyway. How come DJI is in this spot but not Caddx? So DJI, it's unclear whether the DJI out of stock is DJI taking the initiative. DJI has been targeted by various rules and laws, but I don't think any of them are actually in effect as of now. So DJI may be preemptively going, oh yeah, well, we're going to take our ball and go home. But the real answer to your question is that DJI is the 5,000-pound gorilla in the room. So when lawmakers go, Chinese drone company bad, must sanction, they're like, well, I guess it's going to be DJI. Nobody knows Walksnail even freaking exists. Okay. All right. Moving on. More super chats. Geeng, Geeng, 3187. Thank you for €6. Betaflight detected the wrong board on my Meteor 75 and flashed it. Everything works normally. Don't count on it. If you have the wrong number of UARTs, like, it seems like everything is working. You don't know what isn't working right because you flashed the wrong thing. If you want to chance it, I guess more power to you, but I would reflash it with the correct target. Okay? And that Betaflight auto detect, yeah, you know, trust but verify, as I think Reagan used to say. Like, the auto detect is convenient, but you know, always verify with your own research before you flash to make sure you're flashing the right target. Looks like DJI is getting soft banned. What's your opinion? Thank you for $5. That's Sensor Delay, who is a sales agent. Well, we just talked about it, so thank you for your super chat. I'll consider it to have been addressed previously. Doug Cronkite, and Doug is just another dog on the internet like me, so take this for what it is. But Doug says, I think DJI may be concerned that Customs is going to impound their imports because of hysterical political nonsense. Yeah, I think there's a possibility that rather than DJI responding to a specific thing, I think DJI is like, well, we don't want to ship a bunch of product that then can't be imported because Customs F's with it, and instead we're just not going to ship the product at all. So I think there's some possibility to that. I notice fast racers raise Q factor a lot, says Atreides FPV. Atreides, hey, good to see you. Atreides is the builder for 533. If anybody knows anything about fast racers, it's him. What Atreides, I believe, is talking about. What Atreides is talking about is here in the PID tuning tab. Wait. Yeah. Here in the PID tuning tab, in the filter settings, we have the notch filter and we have the Q factor. And the Q factor is the width of the notch. And the wider the notch is higher Q factor, a narrower notch. Higher value makes it narrower. Okay. So the notch filter is notching out a section of the motor of the frequency spectrum. So if the motor is making a peak in the frequency spectrum, the notch filter chops out just that peak. The wider the notch, the more it chops out the peak, but the more delay there is. The narrower the notch, the less filtering there is, the less effective it is at chopping out the peak, but the lower the latency. So by raising Q factor, you're making the dynamic notches narrower. Now, keep in mind that we actually have gyro RPM filters in Betaflight for, I don't remember when the RPM filter started, 4.3, maybe 4.2. So it used to be that the dynamic notch filter's job was to deal with the motors. Now we have the RPM filters to deal with the motors. And the notch filter's job is to pick up any other sort of like frame resonance and so forth. So you might just disable the dynamic notch entirely. Or by raising the Q factor, you make it narrower. And so like you're letting the gyros take care of the motors. And the dynamic notch is like, well, we kind of don't need it as much. So we're going to... It's still nice to have the dynamic notch enabled. Because like you might have frame resonance and you kind of don't know where it is. And this will just automatically pick it up and get rid of it. But I think maybe the thinking is that you're just reducing that latency a little bit. How much are you reducing the latency, though? That's the question, Atreides. And I'm not going to be able to answer that question for you. It's a math question. I don't know the numbers. I don't know the formula. But basically, when you raise the Q factor, the latency gets lower. But how much latency? Notch filters already have fairly low latency. So like I can also reduce the latency by pushing these sliders to the right. You can't see the slider because we're zoomed in. I can also lower the latency by pushing these sliders to the right, which racers also do. So all of it is just an attempt to reduce the latency of the PID loop and improve the handling of the quad. And that's why raising the Q factor, why racers might raise the Q factor. I'm doing my first fixed wing setup, asks Scott Perry. Thank you for $5, Scott. I'm using iNav 8.0. Do I need the ADC filter turned on? I believe iNav wants the ADC filter turned on, especially for a fixed wing. I'm not sure that iNav has the same RC input filtering that Betaflight does that wants it off. So I would think that iNav wants it on, unless I found some sort of indication that they specifically were saying to turn it off. Can I replace the huge 60 amp Spectrum ESC with a quad 60 amp ESC? I guess. I mean, an ESC is an ESC. Nobody cares. But why? You have a perfectly good ESC. Why not use it? It's big. Do you want it to be smaller? Okay. The only thing I could think would be that there may be some settings on that ESC that are optimized for fixed wing. And you would want to, and the ESC, the BL Heli ESC is going to be optimized for multi-rotor. So there may be some settings that you would want to change. Maybe not. But yeah, no, an ESC is an ESC, generally speaking. Chief Baby Jolo asks, I have a Darwin FPV Baby 8 Pro and a gray antenna ripped. Can I replace with a regular linear, or is the gray antenna something specific? No, you can replace with a linear antenna. Just make sure it is the correct frequency. So if it's the video antenna, probably 5.8 gigahertz. If it's the control antenna, 2.4 gigahertz. Don't mess that up. Mupshot. I would flash all the default defines Mupshot. Going back to the question about the drone with load error from earlier. I don't think you need to remove all the other options. We're just reflashing because we want to find out if something got screwed up in your flash or in your setup. Can I order a pre-build with O4 Pro from China? Asks Scott Perry. Thank you for $5, Scott. Or all DJI equipped drones not shipping to the US. No. Scott, if you can find a reseller shipping an O4, then I think there's every chance that you will receive it. And DJI is presumably still shipping O4s to resellers who manufacture, in China, or companies that make bind and flies with the O4. I don't know. Like, for example, if I go to Flywoo, drones, micro drone, HD0 Walkstill Analog HD03, HD04 Pro. Okay, so I want an O4 Pro. Estimated to ship between June 30th and July 7th. Great. Add to cart. Check out. United States. It seems like this is fine, right? I'm just going to pick a random address off the, Well, I'm not going to be able to put a payment method in, so I can't go to the next setting. Yeah, so the next step, it won't validate my address. The next step is going to be for me to actually pay for the drone, so I'm not going to do that. But if you want to pay $461 for an O4 Pro, you can do it. And you'll get this drone, and it'll have an O4 Pro in it. Will Flywoo actually just sell you an O4 Pro? I don't think they will. No. Okay. Out of luck there. Okay, so...
On the left. Oh.
Where did you see Plenty?
4, 5, 6 down there left.
No shit. Pre-order out of stock. So, but my guess is that if you believe this is a customs related issue, DJI will not ship directly to the US, but DJI will ship to integrators in China, like Flywoo. So you could buy a pre-build with the O4 Pro in it, and I think it would come. Flywoo would ship to you. It's just DJI who seems to have a policy of not wanting to do this ship. That's, I mean, I'm not saying that's a good idea, but I think it would work. I have 2 Mark V DJI O4 Pro, says Dennis Smith. Thank you for $20, Dennis Smith. Very generous donation. I have 2 Moz 27 DJI O4. 2 drones with no VTX. For long-range suggestions for different VTX and FPV goggles that are not DJI, which VTX and goggles would you suggest? I honestly, I would suggest analog. DJI is not the best video system for long range. DJI is really, really good until you run out of range, and then there's not a lot you can do to make it have more range. That's how I'll put it. So DJI, make sure you've done the ham unlock. If you have, but the ham unlock gets you to 1200 milliwatts on the O4. You can't get any more power than that. With analog, if you at 1.6 watts and you want more power, you go buy a 5-watt video transmitter. You go buy a 10-watt video transmitter. You know, they're big, they're heavy, they're not legal to use in most places, but you could do it and get more range. With analog, if you don't like your antennas, get a high gain antenna. Sure, more power to you. With DJI, Goggles 3, it's not easy to put aftermarket antennas on the Goggles 3. The Air unit, you can do it. So DJI, once you hit their limit of range, it's relatively difficult to make there be more range. Okay? So DJI is not the best for long range. The other thing is, DJI systems until the O4 have had a hard range limit where at 13 kilometers or 24 kilometers or 30 kilometers, doesn't matter how much signal strength you have, the link stops working. As far as I know, the range limit for the O4 has never been documented. If I'm wrong about that, the chat will tell me. But as far as I know, it hasn't been documented. So, but the bottom line is you're going to run out of signal strength and you're not going to be able to extend the range, and that's it. So, HC0 can go as far as you want. There's no hard limit. But once you run out of signal strength, you're done. HC0, the video transmitter, maxes out at 1 watt. That's it. You can't have any more. You can put high gain antennas on the goggles, and people have gone fairly long range with HC0. With Walksnail, same deal. High gain antennas on the goggles. They have a 2-watt video transmitter. Pretty good. But honestly, I think a lot of people, if you're flying long range, would say that analog is the way to go, because you can have as much output power as you want. It's really easy to put higher gain antennas. It's less expensive. And the way that analog breaks up is, you'll get static and snow, but you'll still be able to see the horizon. Whereas with digital, it just kind of freezes and you get big blurry blocks. And the other thing is, when you're doing long range flying, what do you need high definition video for? You're flying long range. It's just the horizon and the sky and like the terrain 2,000 feet below you or 400 feet below you. Right? So what the frick do you need high definition for? Can't see anything anyway. So I think if you already own DJI and you want to do long range, I would probably steer you to analog. JPER1011, thank you for 25 Hong Kong dollars. What's the difference between KISS Ultra and Alpha, and what's their relationship, and how different are these firmware perform and fly? I don't know. And I'm not going to try to tell you. Thank you for a generous $25 donation. I'm gonna get details wrong about this. I know this story. People have told me this story, and if I try to tell the story and then get it wrong, I will get a bunch of annoying messages that will annoy me, and I just kind of don't want to do it. Having said that, KISS, way back when there was KISS. KISS was an alternate firmware for flight controllers compared to like Betaflight, etc. Then today there is KISS Ultra and FetTech Alpha. Originally, both of these firmwares sort of branched off of the KISS project in a way. I'm pretty sure that at this point in time, both of them have been completely rewritten so that they are no longer sort of, their code base is not tied to KISS, the original KISS code base in any way. There are still business and cultural ties between KISS Ultra and the original KISS project. But in every practical sense, they're distinct. What's the difference between how they perform and fly? I'm not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. Because the proponents of KISS Ultra and FetTech Alpha say that they fly the best ever, amazing, and anybody who says differently is a hater who just doesn't get it. And I like, fundamentally that's all subjective, and there's no like right or wrong answer there. If you are curious, I suggest you get some hardware and you build one. I would suggest you get, for KISS Ultra, and the Voltara ESC is currently like the premium ESC for the KISS world, VOLTARA. Get a KISS Ultra flight controller and a Voltara, and you build one and decide for yourself. It it costs you a little bit of money. You do a new build, you'll try it out, and you'll know. Likewise for FetTech. So, hey Bardwell, have you seen the iFlight Backpack V2? Thank you for £10. No reviews yet. iFlight FPV drone backpack. I think I have seen this. Actually, I have one. I have one in a box right now. I have this exact backpack in a box in the other room right now. iFlight sent it to me for review. I haven't even unboxed it yet. Sorry, iFlight. I know that's not what you wanted to hear. Maybe I'll take it on I'm going on a trip in 2 weeks. What do we got? Let's look at it. Stop! Stop with the chat window! No one wants to chat with you! What do we got here? Let's have a look. Interesting. So on the outside, we have both buckle straps and elastic. Stop with the chat window! Let's see if that works.
Just so you know, we cannot read that.
Yeah, I know. I just realized that. Thank you. Oh, hey, gay, do you need any help? Hey, I know you're just peacefully browsing my website, but ba-ding, 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 I want to chat with you. Chat with me, please. Chat with me. Chat with me. We can help you. What do you want to know? Oh, actually, we're not here. We're not here right now. What the fuck? Why? Okay. You were the one who called me. You called me. You called me? What the fuck? Oh my god. Okay. Well, so I like that they have these elastic straps and regular straps because sometimes I want to just like stuff my drones underneath a bunch of elastic like webbing kind of and just hold them on. And sometimes I want to buckle them down with something more secure. I like the option for both. Very nice. Lots of straps. Got a strap here on top. Just like straps through the frickin' wazoo. Play sounds. There we go. That's what I want. I'll turn that off. Straps out the wazoo. We have... This looks very similar in some ways to my PGY Tech bag. This is identical to the PGY Tech bag that I bought a little while back and have a review in editing. We got two compartments here across the chest, the shoulder straps. That's nice. Just stuff in there for easy accessibility. Nice deep pocket here. I like when the side pockets are deep. Here's the top. No, the bottom. Okay, we got straps on the bottom as well for like a tripod or a sleeping bag. I don't know. Open it. Open it. Open it up. Show me the money. YKK zippers. Nice. This looks exactly like PGY Tech made this. Oh my God, PGY Tech made this bag. 100%. PGY Tech made this bag. 100%.
This is your lawyer calling to say, do not say 100%.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't want to, I mean.
We do not have a factual basis for this percentage.
All right. Thanks, Blenty. No, but look how identical it is. I got to zoom out here. Okay. Put them side to side. Can I not zoom in on this picture? I hate websites altogether. Okay. Look how similar this is. Oh, it's not identical. It's real similar though. We have two flaps here for a laptop and a tablet. On the iFlight bag, there's additional mesh pockets, which I do like. I like that. Just a little extra room to stuff stuff in there and have it be accessible. And then the other thing I see is that the style of the dividers, there's this new style of dividers backpacks have started coming with. It's like, it's a, oh, that's it, huh? I don't get any more looks inside it. It gives you more flexibility in how you lay it out. They're thinner and stiffer. Interesting. It also bums me out that it doesn't. I mean, I have the bag. Let me go get it. Hold on. Oh. No, sorry. It says do not unpack. I guess I can't unpack it. Material is very similar to the PGY Tech. No, no. I am so sure PGY Tech makes this this is, as Blunty says, there's no legal basis for this, but the similarities are insane. These little straps here, these little hooks here, just like the PGY Tech. This handle here, identical to the PGY Tech. This pocket here, identical to the PGY Tech bag. I mean, that's not a bad thing. PGY Tech makes, I mean, I'm really happy with my PGY Tech bag. As far as I'm concerned, that's an upgrade. These little straps here with this hook, identical to the PGY Tech bag. Oh, look, there's a pocket here. I like that. I like accessibility of outside pockets. Oh, I really dig this, that you can pull these in or on or off and move them around. There are so many design choices that are identical to the PGY Tech. It's hard to believe that they are a coincidence. They can't be a coincidence. The design of this pocket, this interior pocket, is literally identical to the PGY Tech. No, 100%. For values of 100% that do not result in legal exposure. I don't know if they're like I'm not defaming them, Blunty. This is like 100% PGY Tech makes this bag. That's fantastic. I'm so happy about that, though. Oh yeah, this is the exact pocket layout of my PGY Tech bag. Yeah, no, but that's good. I'll tell you why that's good. Let's look inside. I'm curious if the dividers are the same. No, they're not the same. Very interesting. Okay, so here's the interesting part. The dividers are... Oh, God, what a mess. Oh. So... on the PGY Tech bag, the dividers are like this. I really like this. It's like firm. It's got a little bit of give, but it's not as fat as this style, right? It's not as fat. And it doesn't have as much kind of give to it. I don't know how to put that. The Velcro, though, it's this excellent Velcro on both of them. This stuff sticks so good, and it extends around the end, so you can stick in. So I'm not sure. I actually kind of think I like this style better, which is in the PGY Tech FPV bag, but I don't know. The iFlight bag is freaking massive. Oh yeah, this top flap is the same design as the PG. Yeah, no, this is interesting. So I'd have to play around with the dividers and figure out the best divider layout. Like, why do we have this? What's this? What's going on here, iFlight? We have this whole section here that just lifts out. What is that? That's interesting. Is that so you can like just take it out of the bag while you're at the field? What's going on there? Interesting. Yeah. I have to think about it. For those who are confused, the PGY Tech bag I'm talking about is this one, which I have a review of this shot, and it's in editing right now. I've been using this for about 2 months. And I think, long story short, it's a good bag. It's got a couple little niggling points that I'm not sure I love. But if iFlight is using them as a manufacturer and designer, if they're doing that, that's only a good thing. So, anyway. Cool. Thanks for asking. Skydozer says, that thing with a rip and dip pocket would be great. I thought I was going to like the rip and dip pocket. The rip and dip is Rotor Riot's thing where you can open a side pocket and pull your stuff out without opening the bag. I never end up using the rip and dip. Maybe I just don't rip and dip a lot. I don't know. Thank you, D3NY. D3NY asks, I bought a Radiomaster Ranger Micro. Set everything up according to your instructions, but the Ranger won't turn on when it's in the TX12. I have to power it separately. The TX12 must have internal module set to Crossfire, or it won't power the external module. Is that's the first thing I would check. In model settings, go down to internal module. External module. External module needs to be set to Crossfire, CRSF. Otherwise, the module won't power up. So that's my best guess as to what you've done wrong. If you have external module set to off, that's why it's not powering up. You have to actually fly under duress to enjoy the rip and dip pocket. That's fair. The thing is, in the time that I could open the rip and dip pocket and kind of like reach in there and pull out my goggles, I take the bag off, I lay it down, zip, 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 it's open. It doesn't take that long to open the damn bag. And then if like, oh, the cops are coming, just goggles off in the bag, it's back on me and it's out. I don't know that the rip and dip saves you that much time. Maybe, I don't know. Blue Line AZ, thank you for a $5 super chat. Blue Line asks, when dragging items on the Betaflight OSD as far left and down as possible, items display on the goggles 3, but only in the upper left-hand part of the screen, not the entire screen. Blue Line, in the goggles, you need to go to Display, Settings, Display, and change the OSD mode to HD. The goggles are acting as though you have... Wait. No, it's the other way around. Betaflight. Betaflight is set to SD. The goggles are set to HD. My point is, you have a mismatch. The Betaflight OSD doesn't have the right canvas size. So here's what I would do. First of all, make sure that your flight controller is set to high definition canvas. So in Betaflight, go to the OSD tab, and you need to have your video format set to HD. If it's set to NTSC or PAL, that's your problem. When you set it to HD, look what happens. NTSC? So here, if I turn on an OSD element and I drag it to the lower right-hand corner of the screen, the goggles have a much bigger screen than this. So this is going to be in the middle of the screen, not in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. When you set this to HD, now the lower right-hand corner of the screen is the lower right-hand corner of the screen. The other thing you might need to do, so number one, set this to HD. The other thing you might need to do is manually set the canvas size correctly. And you can do that. I have to log in. Crap, hold on. You can do that by setting this. Set OSD canvas width and canvas height. You want to go into the CLI. Sometimes you have to do this manually. Set OSD canvas width equals 53. Set OSD canvas height equals 20. You put this in the CLI and type save, and that will make sure that your canvas is the right size. Okay? That's how you need to fix that. Ty Braun, thank you for a $5 super chat. I got a used 5-inch drone on FetTech Flight Controller NESC and table testing with no props. The motors slowly ramp up to idle full throttle when armed. That's normal. That's 100% normal. It doesn't mean anything. When you arm with no props, weird shit happens. That is completely normal. It doesn't mean anything. Take it somewhere safe in case it freaks out and put props on and hover test it. It might have a problem, but the fact that the motors ramp up doesn't mean that it has a problem. Can SpeedyB 60 amp ESC handle a 10-inch quad? Who knows? The amp rating says yes. Reality, who knows? I know for a fact of a couple people who are running a 10-inch on SpeedyB flight stack. How reliable is it? Are they blowing up ESCs? I don't know. I think it's possible that it will be fine. I think it's possible that you'll blow an ESC and you'll cuss me when that happens. 60 amps, yes, 60 amps is fine, but 60 amp ESC rating doesn't mean anything. It just means that's roughly what the manufacturer wants you to think the ESC can do, and quality of the ESC has a lot. You know, I was flying recently an 8-inch octocopter. The 8-inch octocopter was flying, and it was pulling 60 amps. Okay? 60 amps continuous. For an 8-inch octo, that's 15 amps per motor. I'm sorry. There's 8 motors. I'm sorry. 60 divided by 8. It was pulling 7.5 amps per motor. So that 60 amp ESC, we're pulling 7.5 amps out of that 60 amp rating. So, like, would I run an 8-inch octo on a 20 amp ESC? Abso-fucking-lutely not. Because the amp rating is just like a, that's about what, that's what you could expect. It's not like a hard number that actually means anything. So the SpeedyB ESC could be fine. The amp rating suggests it would be fine. In reality, maybe it'll take a shit as soon as you try and fly it with a 10-inch. You just don't know. But it's probably okay. All right. Oh, God, we're caught up on the super chats. Isn't that nice? Let's take some more questions from the regular chat. Will you be releasing a video on HD0's new goggles? HD0 is not sending me a pre-release set of goggles for whatever reason. They decided they didn't want to do that. I will be buying the HD0 goggles at release time. The rumor is that the HD0 goggles have built-in analog receiver. That alone is enough of a feature to make me buy them. Because I use my HD0 goggles as analog goggles almost more often than I use them as HD0 goggles. I love the analog DVR. I love that the analog DVR doesn't skip frames when video gets shitty and your audio stays synced. As a content creator, this is a killer feature for me. I love that they record audio with a built-in internal microphone because that lets me synchronize my audio and my video, my other video together, which is a real pain in the ass with DVR. And I love that recently they have unlocked the ability to record from the HDMI input, which means that not only are the HD0 goggles a great HD0 goggle, a great analog goggle, but also they are a field recorder for any HDMI source that I have. I'll run OpenIPC into the HD0 goggles and record the screen using the HD0 goggles. These are, you could spend $400 to $600 for an HDMI field recorder. That obviously will do more than the HD0 goggles do, but ultimately they're such a Swiss Army knife of capability. I will 100% be buying them, but I will not be releasing a video about them on release day because they didn't decided that they didn't want to send me one. And I'm not like, if I were a different kind of person, I would be trying to stir up shit, and I'm not. HD0 reached out to me about the box goggles, and they said, hey, Bardwell, do you want to review the box goggles? We've got some new box goggles coming. And for whatever reason, like that message got lost in the inbox and I didn't reply. It might be that I saw the words box goggles and my brain went, oh, box goggles. And I didn't realize how freaking cool the HD0 box goggles were going to be. So I didn't review those. And from HD0's perspective, it might have looked like I gave him the cold shoulder. Since then, I have not purchased the HD0 box goggles and made a review of them. Largely because, like, I don't need another set of box goggles and other people have reviewed them and I'm not just, like, gagging to make a review of them. Again, maybe it's just the fact that they're box goggles. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just cutting up this plastic bag. But, like, so if HD0 went, well, Bardwell blew off the box goggles, so we're not going to send him a set of the new HD0 goggles. If they had done that, I wouldn't blame them. But I will buy a set of them, and I will at least be using them and potentially be doing a review of them. But if all they are is a new set of from what I can tell, from the rumors that I've heard, they are upgraded sealed optics module for less dust and moisture intrusion, which no one's going to really, as a user, that's not going to like, oh, I can't believe how much less dust I have in the lenses. Like, that's nice, but, and it's a built-in analog module, and those things together, like, yep, the analog module alone, I'm going to buy them, period. Bearwolf, the SkyZone X4 Pro cannot record from the HDMI input. As far as I know, the HD0 goggles are the only ones that can record from the HDMI input, which is a pretty killer freaking feature. TBS Unify Pro 32 is not showing device ready on smart audio. There is a bug in Betaflight recently. Some people are being affected by it. What you do to fix it is this. In the firmware update, you go to, is it other options? No. Hang on, I'm going to remember this. Oh, I'm going to look it up. I'm not going to remember it. Oh, man. That's not it. There's man, what's the define, guys? The define is, I think it's non-compliant _ smart audio. Yeah, here, this is the exact issue. Smart audio does not work after upgrade to Betaflight 451 to 452. Yep, that's it. Non-compliant _ smart audio. So what you do is this. You reflash the board, and in custom defines, I wish there was a list of custom defines, but it would probably be like a really long list, or at least maybe it would autocomplete. You're going to put non-compliant _ smart audio. And let's try this. Let's see if it works. I don't think you need to put use. Although, Kenneth MC, you optionally can put use. Thomas Vanderbrink, if that didn't work for you, if you tried that and it didn't work, the next thing I would do is flash from 452 back to 451. Because I think this bug was introduced in 452, although I'm not 100% sure. Anyway. That's the advice. If those don't work, then maybe you have a wiring problem or a ports problem, or maybe it's a tramp telemetry instead of smart audio, etc. How can I get HDMI out for my O4 Air unit, goggles, Avata, etc.? The answer to your question is Cosmo Streamer. You want a product called Cosmo Streamer. I have a video about it. Here is the video. Cosmos Streamer is a device you make with a Raspberry Pi, and it gives you HDMI out from DJI systems. If you don't want to make it, you can buy one pre-built, but it's not that much of a hassle to make. It depends if you have more money than time. That's what you want. Is the altitude of pause hold on 4.6 as good as DJI's? No, but it's still pretty good. DJI's altitude hold and pause hold is really excellent. Betaflight's is pretty good. What's the best 7-inch for beginners? No 7-inch. Beginners should not start with a 7-inch. They should start with a 5-inch or smaller, in my humble opinion. A good first 7-inch after you're familiar with 5 inches and a more experienced pilot. A good 7-inch might be the GEP-RC Mark 5. 7-inch is pretty solid. GEP-RC Moz 2.7 is pretty solid. iFlight Chimera 7 is good, although I think iFlight is currently not shipping to the US. So if you're in the US, you may be out of luck there. You said in your video some time ago that charging batteries from another LiPo battery at high current is not dangerous. I said that? Thank you for giving me a timestamp link to my own video so I can find out what I actually said. Beginners in the world of 14 minutes and 46 seconds. And that means we charge it to 4.35 volts. It would be... Oh, God. I must have fucked up the audio on this because you can hear the reverb, meaning that I'm using the... I must be using the other the backup microphone. Nice if it actually said 4.35 somewhere on here just to make things easier. 4.35 volts. We set the... Or maybe that's just what the audio sounds like over there. I don't know. Charge current. And because we're charging directly off a battery, we can just charge at max current. Okay, so the issue here is not that current... I'm not saying that you could just... When you're charging from a battery, you don't have to think about current. But this LiPo battery that I'm charging from has an amp rating of, 30 or 40 amps. So if we're charging 6 batteries at 1.3 amps each, we're nowhere near the limit. That's what I'm saying. That the battery... If we were charging from a USB power supply, it might be limited to 45 watts. And then we might not be able to charge these batteries. Well, we might be able to. I'm not sure. I have to do the math on the wattage. So it would be 4.35 volts times 1.3 amps is 6 watts. 45 watts divided by 6, we can charge 7.5 batteries at a time. So we actually could charge the batteries at full current, full rate from a 45 amp USB PD supply. My point is that you never want to overdraw the current capacity of your supply. And since in this case my supply was a LiPo battery with a 30 or 40 amp current rating, I don't need to worry about it. That's my point. Best analog goggles for under $300. The HD0 box goggle, probably. HD0 box goggle. Is that under 300? I think it's right around 300. HD0 box goggle is $300 exactly. That's the one. During the iGao challenge, my son smashed our HD0 Mobula 6 into the top gate doing a power loop. Camera stopped working and no blue light. Changed camera, same issue. Changed the cable, which maybe you already did change the cable. You have to just, if you get no blue light from the HD0, that means it's not talking to the camera. It's not booting up. You change the camera, change the cable. At that point, if you change the camera and the cable and you still don't get blue light, probably the VTX is destroyed, and that's not what you want to hear. But, you changed everything else, so what else could it be? Would you recommend 1.3 gigahertz analog for 2 to 3 mile long range? I live in Alaska, and it's very tree dense. That's really interesting that you say that. I was just about to say there's really no reason for you to use 1.3 gigahertz, 5.8, blah 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 blah. But if you're in a tree dense environment and you're looking for increased penetration, maybe 1.3 is actually a fair choice. Honestly. Just be aware that in the United States, 1.3 gigahertz is much narrower and there are fewer channels than internationally. If you buy an international 1.3 gigahertz transmitter, find out what frequencies you're allowed to use and only use those frequencies, because there's stuff around 1.3 gigahertz that the FCC doesn't like you messing with. So maybe. 1.3 gigahertz comes with its own complications. Like you can get issues with interference with the 1.3 gigahertz and like your control link, depending on what frequency your control link is. In general, you want the control link to be at a lower frequency than the video link. Because if the control link, because the receiver is on the drone and the video transmitter is on the drone. The video transmitter transmits at a high frequency and there are harmonics going up. The receiver doesn't transmit very much at all and is on a lower frequency. So do you see? The transmitter, your hand controller, transmits on a low frequency and there are harmonics going up, and that can screw with your video link, right? But you'd rather have the hand controller mess with the video receiver than the video transmitter mess with the control receiver. That's the way people usually want it. So generally, you want your control link to be on a lower frequency than your video link. If you put your video link on 1.3 gigahertz and your control link on 2.4, you could potentially fail-safe your receiver with your video transmitter being too powerful. There are ways around this, like you can put a harmonic filter on your controller to filter out the harmonics. There's ways around it. These are things you get into when you start dealing with low frequency video like 1.3 gigahertz. But that's an application of 1.3 gig that might make sense. My Radio Master Pocket only goes up to 100 milliwatts. That is because it's in EU mode. If you put it in FCC mode or FCC region, you'll get the full 250 milliwatts. Tasmania, I don't entirely understand what you're asking, but it sounds interesting. How to make a two-position switch switchable depending on the state of another switch, but remembering its state. Can you email me a better description of what you're trying to do, and maybe I'll make an EdgeTX tutorial about how to do it? But that sounds interesting. I'm not going to dive into it here on the live stream, but email me. Thomas Vanderbrink. Wait. Van Den Brink. Thomas Vandenbrink is not able to get Betaflight to open. Failed to open. I mean, Thomas, probably the thing you need to do is install the STM32 virtual COM port drivers. I don't know. The other thing you might need to do is if you have something running in the background that is grabbing the COM port, like a slicer program for your 3D printer. Cura is a common one. If you're running Cura in the background, it grabs COM ports willy-nilly because it's trying to see, I don't know why it does it. I guess it's trying to talk to your 3D printer. And if you have Cura running in the background, Betaflight can't connect to the COM port. So close everything in the background that just close all the programs that are running in the background and see if that fixes it. Check your drivers. And then if you are just stuck and tired of it and you want someone to hold your hand and help, Blunty has a one-on-one troubleshooting service. Hey, Blunty, if he's new to the stream, he may not know who you are. Say hi.
Hi, it's me. It's Blunty.
Blunty is my partner for a long time in in content creation in YouTube, but also in life. And he has a one-on-one troubleshooting service. $50 an hour. You message him on Discord. He'll jump on a Zoom call with you, share your screen, and sort you out.
It's Blunty on Discord. That's all you got to do.
ITSBLUNTY. It's Blunty on Discord. Just DM him and say, hey, I want to do your one-on-one service, and he'll take it from there. For those who don't know, Blunty is the one who's queuing up all these questions. That's why I'm so good at picking questions and not missing questions. It's one of the best ideas I ever had for making my live stream more fun for me and probably better for the viewers is having you start queuing questions, Blunty. So thank you for that.
Happy
Blunty,
to do it.
Absolutely. Blunty, I have a topic that I meant to bounce off of you before I maybe or maybe not make a video about it. And I see that the live stream is coming to the end of the stream, and I still haven't done it. So since I've, called attention to you, can I do that? I'm going to do that right now. No, I'd rather not. So the topic is this. I found out it has to do with drone regulation and weaponization of drones. So just, cleanse your palate. I found out, I watched this guy, his name is Parody. This guy, I've been watching...
The confrontation between Israel and...
This guy for years, literally years now. And he has amazing insight and analysis to... His background is in defense economics, so he talks a lot about economics and so forth. But he says a lot of smart things. And I watched this video recently about topics which I will not name for fear of, getting flagged or demonetized or some shit. And one of the things he said was, he said that if the Operation Spiderweb, which was the Ukrainian operation where they had a bunch of drones hidden in trucks, and the trucks drove next to military bases, and then the drones flew out of the trucks and they blew up a bunch of bombers. Oh, wait, I'm demonetized immediately. He said that if that hadn't happened, then this operation would have been way more notable because apparently the exact same type of thing happened. That before the operation, a bunch of drones were staged. A bunch of drones were staged inside the country, built inside the country, and then flown from inside the country to soften up the defenses before the airplanes flew in and did what they do. And I thought, that's not a coincidence. Is that just going to be a thing going forward? That before you do a military operation, you sneak drones into the country and you try and take out their defenses using drones that you snuck into the country. Now, that's two. If I had a nickel for every time that happened, it'd be 2 nickels, which that's still something. And I thought, is this kind of thing, does this ultimately lead to, I almost don't want to say it because, there's been so much hysteria. The first time someone heard of a weaponized drone, they said, that's it, everybody! Drones are going to be banned forever! And so far, drones haven't been banned forever. But, this kind of thing makes me think, man, is this just like a nail in the coffin in some ways? It's not imminent, but, how many times do the kind of people who want to defend military bases from attack have to see, drones being snuck into a country or even assembled within a country, in a factory, inside a country, operated by agents of the hostile power? And then, before the invasion, these drones, suddenly they go from being hobby drones, now it's a weapon. And then they just sneak them over by your military bases and start blowing things up. Sneak them over by your air defenses and start blowing them up. Like, that's the kind of thing that makes even a person like me who's like, you guys are overreacting, go, man, are we going to see drones just get completely banned? Like, how do you tell the difference between a drone that's just a hobbyist flying around having a good time and a drone that's being operated by a hostile adversary who wants to soften you up? I don't know. Blunty, thoughts? You think about these issues like too, and I respect your opinion. So I don't know. Put you on the spot here.
Yeah, I have no opinion. I haven't really thought about it enough to have an opinion on the internet.
Damn. All right. Well, that's probably a responsible thing for you to do. I guess I'll just say I'm. When it happened one time, I was like, oh, that's very interesting. Isn't that something? And when it happened 2 times, I was like, oh, wait, this is a trend. And then I thought, where does this trend end? I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well. Weird. There you go. All right. Well, think about it. I'm thinking about it. If you do come up with an opinion, maybe one that you'd like to share offline, then I would be interested to hear it. All right. 15 minutes left in the stream. We got a couple more super chats coming in. Let me grab them. Champ Starable, thank you for $10. Am I able to override the throttle setting as an arming flag in iNav on the SpeedyBee wing fixed wing? No, you cannot arm when the throttle is raised. Using on a glow-powered plane. Oh, you need idle. You can't put the throttle all the way down. That's tricky. I don't know how you would do that. Champstar, that feels to me like something that has a solution. Probably what I would do is in iNav, I would adjust the min throttle setting so that the iNav min throttle is above your idle speed. So that when you're idling, iNav still thinks the throttle is all the way down. But the problem is then if you're flying and you go down to min throttle to idle, then iNav will think the throttle's all the way down. I don't know what it will do. Yeah, that's what I would do. In iNav, there is a min throttle setting. Raise the iNav min throttle to be above your idle speed, and then you will still be able to arm because iNav will think the throttle's all the way down. Mr. Visionist, thank you for €5. Are the Eachine EV800D still the best cheap option for analog goggles? Yeah, pretty much. In the $100 price point, for sure. In the $100 price point, they're still pretty much the best. Here's one from Fern. Just popped up. I saw him in the Discord. I thought I'd grab it. Fern asks, I have an RC car that's running Express LRS. I'm using my quad radio to control it. I set up 2 curves in EdgeTX, 0 to 100 and 0 to minus 100 that are used to go forward and reverse. Curves are switched by a momentary switch. I noticed that my car's throttle needs trim since it starts going forward around 9% throttle, so I've used a trim switch to give some trim, but that screws up the reverse curve. Trim still stays at 9%. I have to move the stick further to start reversing. How can I have trim for different curves? Here's what you need to do. I can't tell you exactly how to do it, but what I do know is that, do you know the flight modes screen? Modes screen that you don't use because you don't need flight modes? That's what you need to screw with. The flight modes each have their own trim settings. Okay? And when I was setting up my my Radio Master car controller, the MT12, I remember having to screw with this. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to go into the modes tab and you're going to have one mode that is for forward driving and one mode that is for reverse driving. And you're going to have the switch modes. And those modes are going to carry the trims with them. I believe that in the mode settings, you can choose to have the trims be global or mode specific. So look, flight modes. Flight modes allow you to have different trim settings for each flight modes. You can adjust the trim settings in each flight mode without affecting the trim settings in other flight modes. There are 9 possible flight modes, see? So you're going to go to the Modes tab. You're going to set up one flight mode for forward and one flight mode for reverse. And to configure the trim, select the trim you want to configure, then select the flight mode that will provide the initial trim value and modifier from the drop-down menu. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to figure out, I don't know how to do this off the top of my head, but this is what you need, and you have to screw with it until you figure it out. And more Godspeed. Okay? Good luck, Fern. Okay. A little bit of off topic stuff. First of all, a little while back, I talked a little bit about a new hobby I'm playing with, which is building watches, and I talked about this watch. I thought I would update you guys on this. This watch is a Speedmaster lookalike that I bought just for fun. And I didn't like that it came with Casio, or with with Omega Speedmaster on the dial, because it's not a Speedmaster. It was anybody who knows what Speedmasters look like can immediately tell it's not a Speedmaster. So I opened it up, and I pulled off all the hands, and I replaced the dial with a blank one, which I don't like this dial either. I don't like the blank. I don't like the size of the subdials. They're not quite right. So I actually have another dial coming. I'm going to try replacing it. But I'm kind of psyched that I did that. Got all the, kind of hard to see, but the chronograph hand is slightly misaligned. It's slightly to the left, and it drives me crazy. And the other thing is, if you run the chronograph and then reset it, I should have another camera for this. Yeah. Oh, it's going back to the correct position. It's just slightly off center. So I would have to reset that hand. It's kind of a pain in the butt. This hand right here as well, this subdial hand is slightly you probably can't see, but it's slightly off center. But I felt pretty happy with that. Work? I'm super psyched about that. So just letting you in on a little insight into a new thing I'm working on. Yeah. I was at the mall. I was at the mall yesterday, and I was like, why not? So I went into a jeweler, and they'll just let you could just walk into a jeweler, and they'll just hand you a $10,000 watch and let you, just look at it. I mean, I don't know. Maybe not you. Or maybe if you're like a 16-year-old kid, they probably wouldn't. But if you're a middle-aged man, they do. I went in there, and I got to hold a real Speedmaster that I was like, oh. Yep, $8,300. So suffice it to say, I didn't buy it. But that's what this one is trying to look like, kind of. It's not the same. You can immediately see the placement of the subdials and the proportions of the subdials are not right immediately. But anyway, it was fun. Just go to a jewelry store in the mall and pretend you're rich, and just act like you're going to buy something, and they'll just hand you shit and let you play with it. It's kind of cool. Does the tiny prop puller work on those hands? I don't know about that. I have a basic watch. A friend of mine got me a watch kit from this company. I should affiliate this company. I plug them so much. Got me a watch kit from this company, and it came with a basic set of tools. So that's what I use to pull the hands and set the hands. So it's pretty fun. Anyway. Will you be at Rampage 2025? Asked Richard. Possibly. Possibly. It's really hard for me to commit this far out, honestly. Ciati's a fan of NATO straps. Yeah, this Brandon Beans. This is a Seiko. So apparently, all these watches these Chinese reps are based on Seiko movements. This is the Seiko V63 movement, and as far as I can tell, the V63 movement is explicitly made to make Speedmaster look-alike watches. So the goal with the V63 movement was to have a chronograph with 3 subdials that kind of looks like a Speedmaster. Strangely, they put a date complication on it, which the Speedmaster doesn't have. Well, some of them do, but most of them don't. So most of the Speedmaster lookalikes just have a dial that doesn't expose the date, even though the date is there, which is kind of weird. And the other thing about the V63 that annoys me is this subdial is a 24-hour subdial, which is kind of pointless. Like, I know whether it's day or night without needing a 24-hour subdial. So it's kind of a wasted subdial. Whereas on the Speedmaster, there's a 30-minute and a 60-minute accumulator. And the other thing that bugs me, you won't be able to tell this, is that the chrono, if I push the button, there's a click. If I push the button again, it's just mushy. See, you can't tell whether you fully push the button. There, no click. No click. Like, it should click every time. It should click every time you push the button, not just the first time. Like, it's a small thing, but it bugs me. Anyway. End of stream Q&A after an evening of bando flying with friends. Thank you, Sunshine, for $10. It's 2:30 a.m. You're starving and your favorite mom and pop all-night dinner. What's your go-to order? Oh, middle of the night? Oh, let's see. What's my middle of the night diner order? It might be a burger. It might be a burger. It might be breakfast. I don't know. I don't know if I have a go-to. I don't know if I have a go-to for a middle of the night diner order. Chicken Parmesan. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I don't have a go-to order most places. I just look at what I want and then order it. You know, like hash browns and eggs, hash browns and scrambled eggs, or medium over medium eggs, maybe. Egg on a burger, very nice. Ciati FPV is going to be streaming in 5 minutes. Ciati is currently in the chat. Give me the link, Ciati. He's going to be streaming in 5 minutes. Meatloaf is good. I like meatloaf a lot. If I did not get to your question, and I didn't get to a lot of questions, because there just are a lot of questions, you can email me, jb@joshuabardwell.com. Nostalgics. Could a regular freestyler notice the difference between 160 versus 150C? No. The C rating is bullshit anyway. Tattoo releases the V5 battery. It's 150C. They release the V6. They just slap 160C on it because they have to have a higher number. That's the short version. The whole C rating is complete marketing BS. There is no basis for it. Think about it. I have a 1500 milliamp hour battery, right? It's 150C, 225 amps. 225 amps? Are you kidding me? The battery's not going to deliver 225 amps. It's an XT60 connector. It's rated for 60 amps. And even if it did like take 225 amps for a few seconds, it would just melt. So the C rating is complete bullshit. Is the V6 battery better than the V5? Probably. So they just raise the C rating to signal to you that it's a better battery. The battery is better in some way, and that may be meaningful, but the C rating doesn't tell the tale. Fair enough? Anyway, SMC batteries are the current best. Unless the Tattoo V6 is buying the same cells that the SMC batteries are. SMC batteries are hands down the best right now. If they come in a size, they only come in 2 sizes. If they come in a size you need, they are just hands down better than everything else on the market. So that's what you should probably buy. If you need a 1400 or a 1600. See how he post his link? There we go. Ciati, rough day of FPV yesterday. 6 batteries, Q&A. Ciati is going to be streaming starting in just about 2 minutes when I go off the air. So everybody can head on over there after we're done here. Is there a hover failsafe option in Betaflight, asks Durr. Pause hold. In Betaflight 4.6, maybe. You could make it do that. Betaflight 4.6 has pause hold. You could probably set it up so it goes into pause hold when it failsafes. It's not a default failsafe option, but you might be able to override the failsafe. I'm not sure about that.
It's up. We'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, yeah, sometimes we're not. Often we're not. So just so you know, we have a stream tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll be streaming on Monday as well. Yeah. If we did not get to your question, email jb@joshuabardwell.com. There is not a new radio coming from Radio Master. Radio Master denied that rumor. I mean, they probably are working on a new radio, but that render you saw was not true, according to Radio Master. All right, guys. We're going to wrap up. Ooh. Reddit said DJI N3, DJI Goggles 3, Walk Snail Goggles X, 13. Well, it just shows you what Reddit knows. That's a weird result. I guess DJI still won. That we're going to wrap up. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great stream, Ciati. Bye, everybody. On to the next one.